I would like to call upon Dr. Nimisha Verma.
So, still good morning. A very good morning to all. And at the outset, I would like to thank the organizers for giving me this opportunity to speak on sacroiliac joint MIPSI. And and congratulate them for conducting a very wonderful conference. It's a pleasure being a part of it. And I bring greetings to you from my institute, Banaras Hindu University. So today the topic of my presentation is fluoroscopy guided sacroiliac joint minimally invasive pain spine intervention. So these are the commonly practiced injections that we do. It is the intra-articular injection, or it may be an extra-articular, or we can also do a lateral sacral nerve blocks. Ideally, we can use a fluoroscopy, although we also can do it under a ultrasound guidance or CT guidance, but CT is not easily available. Fluoro is which is very comfortable for us. And what we do with this intra-articular injections, we can either put a steroid or we can do a PRP. We can also do Prolo with dextrose, and we can go and do a radiofrequency ablation with various techniques now available. Cryo is also coming up in a big way for the sacroiliac joint. So before we go into how do I do it or how do we do the sacroiliac joint injection, it is very important for us to understand the anatomy of the sacroiliac joint. Why? Because this is a major joint that transmits the whole of the weight of the body when we are sitting or when we are standing. Sitting, the weight goes to the ischial tuberosities, and standing, the weight goes to the femoral heads. But in the process of transmission of this weight, the pain transmission and the pain pattern that we get will largely depend upon what abnormality we are expecting in the joint. So it is the largest axial joint in the body. Although it is a joint, it is a mobility stabilizer. Joints are supposed to make us move, but this joint is specifically meant to make us more stable, stand stable, sit stable. And that is why this joint is covered with 4 layers of ligaments. It has got 9 muscle attachments to it, and it has got a very intricate variable nerve supply. So coming on to the sacroiliac joint ligaments, there are 4 layers, and the deepest is the interosseous membrane, interosseous layer of ligaments, which is the strongest ligament in the body. Covered after that, we have the anterior and posterior sacroiliac ligaments, which are again very strong. Posterior has a deeper and a superficial layer, and over that is the sacrotuberous sacrospinous ligament, which gives again an attachment to various muscles, and even beyond that we have the thoracolumbar fascia. This thoracolumbar fascia, as we know, that it gives attachment to the latissimus dorsi muscle, which is a huge muscle contributing to the bulk of the back, also to the small paraspinal muscle, the multifidi, the erector spinae, the paraspinal muscles, and the muscle attachments to the anterior abdominal wall muscles, the external oblique, internal oblique, and the transverse abdominis. So why this is important for us? Because the pain radiation may occur if these attachments or the lumbar fascia is stretched, the pain radiation may occur to these regions. So we should be aware when we are trying to deal with a patient of low back pain, we should be aware of these musculotendinous attachments so that we do not miss the sacroiliac joint pain component in the vast number of differentials that we have for low back pain. So this was the point of bringing in this a little bit of anatomy for our quick review. So this is the sacroiliac joint. Now again, to make matters worse, there were 4 layers of ligaments, 9 muscles. Now we have a variable nerve supply. From L4 dorsal rami to S4 lateral sacral nerve, all nerves can supply alag-alag jagah pe. We don't know how. We have different, there is no target that we can pinpoint. So it is important for us to know all these points. Then coming to the sacroiliac joint capsule. The joint is anterior inferiorly, it is synovial in nature, while the posterior superior joint is fibrous in nature. So, after reviewing all this, we can understand that the pain generators can be either the joint capsule, or it can be the bones, or it can be the ligaments, which are handy, many of them, and then it can be the muscle overlying. So when we come across any patient with the pain in the back, we have to think about the pain generators. What are the pain generators and how do we go about making the differential diagnosis? According to a recent review, history and physical examination can help us diagnose the sacroiliac joint pain, but none of the tests are diagnostic. So more than 3 provocative tests may point to a sacroiliac joint involvement, and different types of tests lead to make us stretch the different parts of the ligaments and the joint capsule. So here is like Patrick's and Ganslin's will stretch the anterior capsule. Distraction test, again anterior capsule, while as compression, thigh thrust will tell us about the posterior joint capsule. And tenderness over the joint will help us understand about that there is some dysfunction in the posterior ligamentous structure. That is why a set of 3 or more provocative tests has to be positive when we want to rule out sacroiliac joint. The test may be negative, then also we cannot say that sacroiliac joint is not involved. So SI joint injection as a diagnostic tool is used to now it has been recommended as a diagnostic tool to make us joint pain diagnosis. Indications, we all know, this has been covered in the previous classes, and it is most commonly osteoarthritis, spondyloarthropathies, some metabolic diseases. Pregnancy can cause joint laxation, and so is trauma. Sometimes patients with spinal fixation surgeries will land up into sacroiliac joint dysfunction, because especially the lower lumbar spine, then it will lead to sacroiliac joint dysfunction. And sometimes trauma will lead to many or few ligamentous structure injuries, which will again cause sacroiliac joint dysfunction. Contraindications, as for all MIPCs, it is allergy, local malignancy, infection, and coagulopathy, pregnancy, and type 2 diabetes, because generally we use a particulate steroid in the SI joint, so it's better not to give if in a poorly controlled diabetic. So why should we distinguish between, the next question is, why should we distinguish between intra-articular and extra-articular injections? So a recent paper, recent original article in RAPM tells us that it is important to distinguish intra and extra-articular because the treatment line will change. For intra-articular injections, when they are positive, we go with intra-articular PRP, and if not sustained relief is obtained, we go for fixation of the SI joint. But for extra-articular, we do a sacral lateral nerve block and then RFA. So the 2 lines of management will change. So we have to, with physical test, examination, with all their limitations, we have to pinpoint the diagnosis so that we decide whether we go for intra-articular block or a lateral sacral nerve block. Coming on to the equipment, I have small videos, so I'll just skip, be very fast with them. And the standard, all things we already know, steroid is there, 22 gauge spinal needle is there, and these are the landmarks, the 3 techniques. The intra-articular, we focus the lower 1/3, extra-articular, we focus the peri-articular region. Sometimes when you are going intra-articular, it automatically spills in the extra-articular space, so we don't have to focus much on going extra-articular, वो अपने आप ही चला जाता है. And for the lateral sacral nerves, it is the sacral foramina and the ala of the S1 that we need to focus. Yeah, so for our young pain physicians, this is the AP view of the sacroiliac joint and the lateral view. The point of putting these slides was to make us familiar with the joint anatomy and to tell that the lateral part is the anterior joint line, the medial part is the posterior joint line, and we have to go in between the anterior posterior joint lines, but in various types of pelvises, these joint lines will have a different anatomy. So see, in the 2 x-rays, we don't have the same joint line. They are different. And in the lateral view, we would like to have a needle placed in up to the anterior 1/3 of the sacrum. So that is where the synovial part of the joint is there, and we try to deposit the drug there. Able to move, yeah. So this is the technique of intra-articular injection. We square the sacral end plate so that the foramina become clear. We obtain an AP view. We do an contralateral oblique tilt depending upon to obtain the best view 5 to 15 degrees and focus our target on the distal 1/3 of the joint. The needle target is lower 1/3 and only 0.2 to 0.3 ml of dye should be used as the joint has got a very small volume of 0.8 to 2.5 ml. So we have to be cautious that injecting the joint with a lot of pressure will either cause the joint capsule to be damaged or it will cause a spill onto the ligaments, periarticular ligaments. So which we don't want when we are doing an intra-articular. So, and the target is 0.8 to 1.5 ml of local anesthetic and steroid. So this is one X-ray picture of how the intra-articular injection looks, and now we'll watch the video. So standard ASC monitoring preparation, IV cannula. We have a sound also in this. Yeah. So this is how we have to. Focus the C-arm so that it looks in between both the joints. After the standard preparation, we infiltrate the local anesthetic. So the target area. Yeah, so when we give the dye, we can see it's going into the joint, little bit it has spilled out and it is along the joint. But when we do a lateral view, you can see the dye. Is it visible? So this is, yeah, this is my needle and this is the dye. It may not be very clear, but this is my dye. This is going to the anterior part of the joint. So that is sort of a, and we can see the images for reference. Yeah. So 4 ml is there in the syringe, but only 1.5 ml will be given. And care should be taken not to push in at a very with a lot of force so that the joint is not damaged. So these are the final pictures. And this is my team. Coming on to extra-articular injections, the target, oh God, I don't have time. So the target is ligaments, entheses and muscles. The contrast conformation is not mandatory and image only helps improve the safety and precision. It is not used for diagnosis. Lateral sacral nerve MIPCs are a little bit more advanced. The target, as we know, the anterior joint and the posterior joint have different nerve supplies. So it targets the posterior joint but spares the anterior part of the joint. We give only local anesthetic in very small aliquots, 1 centimeter lateral to the lateral sacral margin of the posterior foramina. In this, we can see we have to make a total of 9 lesions. 9 places we have to, we give at L5 dorsal ramus, then S1, S2, S3, and sometimes S4 we also give the 0.6 ml of local anesthetic. Coming on to, if these lateral sacral nerve blocks are positive, then we can plan a lateral sacral nerve RFA. And if we have the facility, we can use a conventional RFA, or we can do a cooled RFA. The difference in the lesion size we all know. Then recently there is one Simplicity probe which can create a bipolar lesion, which is shown in the lower part of the picture, and there are many other ways. Some people have advocated pulsed RFA, posterior ligament RFA, and inside the joint RFA also. But my experience with them is not, it's nil. So this video I have taken from some pharma company, but I don't have any obligation for this. Just for explaining how we go out, because recently we did not do a cooled RFA technique. So just to explain how it is done, I have taken it from there. We create 9 lesions, lesioning the dorsal nerve root, dorsal ramus, lateral to L5 dorsal ramus, lateral to the base of the sacral ala. And then at 2:30, 4 o'clock and 5:30, we make lesions on the S1 and S2, and at 2:30 and 4:30 on the right side at the S3 foramen. This is the standard protocol that we use for RF ablation. Yeah, I think I can. Yeah, this is the same that we did long back, 3 years back, I think, in one of our patients. And this is the epsilon needle which we can use to locate the joint, and how we have to redirect, make 3 lesions, so it's easy for us to take out the needle and then put it back again. This is the technique of the conventional RFA. Complications may be hematoma, neural damage, but SI is relatively safe if we do under fluoro guidance. Pelvic infections, yes, you have to take care. The dye should be sterile, and we should be very cautious because it is a deep-seated joint, so don't introduce any infection. That will cause more harm than good. Thank you so much.